right up the street. Okay, so you're very local. Yeah. I'm over in St. Jay. I live over that way, and this is going to be really intimate and casual. I'm so glad to be here, and thank you to Jason and to the loading dock for doing these kinds of things and having me here this evening. This is kind of my first foray, talking about what it is that I do, singing and playing at the same time. And I've had a lot of fun, putting thought into how to talk about this sort of thing. So a little bit of an introduction. My name is Pam McCann, and I've been playing since I was a little tiny kid. I can't really put a time on it, and I always did both things at once, singing and drumming at the same time. They work together very naturally for me. And, I'm just going to have a seat here. And I wrote a lot of notes, so I'm kind of going to prompt myself from there. So that, and I really want to encourage you to ask questions, a little bit of Q&A. And we can start with that. Like, what brought you here this evening?
I saw what you were doing was cool.
Okay. All right. And I heard you talking earlier about having an interest in drums.
Yeah.
You want to start playing? Yeah. Do you play at all right now?
No, not right now.
No.
But
Okay.
that's the goal.
Yeah. All right. And how about you over there?
Oh, I come around the loading dock for all the shows and stuff, and I was interested to see what exactly was going on. So
Great.
decided I would pop in and
Yeah.
be curious.
Excellent. Like, curiosity is great. Curiosity sparks everything, and it certainly sparks me. And as kind of the precipice from whence I come. So I guess what I wanted to say, introduce myself, obviously, and singing and drumming is something that is, it gives you two skills. It gives you two things to bring to the table. Drumming is great, and it's a cool thing to do, and it's a responsibility, and super fun. Definitely, you are a musician in the band. You're not just somebody holding down the beat. It's all about feel more than here. It's here, and in your body as well. And that's really where to start from. Just keeping it real simple. And both as a drummer, but also as a drummer-singer. When you're singing, you can play a number of things, but it's easiest to keep it real simple. And then just hum or, sing a song that you already know. You just grab a song, out of the ether, something that you hum a lot and you know really well, and just keep a real simple beat to it, And it also helps with independence. This is a fifth limb, so once you're doing something here, it really informs what you're doing here and just creates more space for separation. And, it's not something that you necessarily think about consciously, but it just happens at osmosis. Like anything that you do, you get muscle memory. But my point on it is to just really keep it simple, The next thing I want to say is, it's melodic participation if you're singing too. If you want to become part of a band, you want to get involved in a musical sense, I think that singing is a great way to get into that and do that. What sort of led me to this is I've played for many, many years in many situations and studios and around. And, what I've heard a lot from audiences of people is that, they don't see this a lot. That, I don't see singing drummers, especially a female, and it must be difficult. And I don't think that it's any more difficult than anything else. It's not any different than, Jason and I were talking earlier about how we find it more difficult to play guitar and sing than just, beating out a rhythm and singing. I won't say just beating out a rhythm because there are, nuances and techniques to that. It's just, you got to just think about what you want to do, how you want to participate in music. And if you don't have an inclination for singing, you can just say something. You can speak. Speaking is rhythm. We're all wired that way. I mean, the first, I think culturally, the first instruments people ever used were their voice and rhythm. So those two things just go together. We used it to communicate, and then, you get into, it gets put into rock music, then it's a little different thing. People see it as special, but it's just innately human to do this right here, is to sing along with a rhythm. And so in that way, it's really simple, down to basics. It's primal and a lot of fun. And so other than, I just want to move on to, exploring, accompanying yourself, being curious, having fun, it's just a great thing to do. So, like if I'm, when I was a kid, and like I said, I can't really put a time on when I began singing and drumming because they went together hand in hand for me. But I just remember humming, a lot. And so you could just do something really simple, So you can, right then I was singing over the top of what I was doing, just real simple long tones, holding it up. Hey, yeah. Just have fun. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V. Q, R, S, T, U, V. When I was a kid, I thought elemental was one word. Elemental. Okay, so I'm keeping a real simple rock rhythm going. This is, I'll just play like a straight OG, old school rock rhythm, okay? I'm just keeping straight beats here, okay? 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and that's just a real straight, simple rock beat. Do it all day long, right? And you just really want to relax. You want to breathe. Breathing is everything. I teach vocals. And the main point of that I tell people is just to get the air to support what you're doing. Like anything that you do, you're doing a sport, you're doing yoga, you're walking down the street, not even thinking about breathing. And that's where you want to get. You want to get so that you're not thinking about it, but you're comfortable. That comfort factor is everything. And so, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 4 and I'm not counting right now, but honestly, I never count. I feel it, That is what propelled me into doing what I do, feeling the music. Get close to something that you really, really like, a song. I think of a song that you like. For me, it was something simple, like Bill Withers' Ain't No Sunshine. And I'll do a little bit of that for you right now, okay? Because that's just a real straight rhythm and blues, Motown groove, keep it slow. Really get into the feel, how your body feels. Take a nice breath, relax your shoulders, okay? And so once you get that real simple rhythm down, sing over it, okay? Ain't no sunshine when he's gone. Always dark when he's away. Ain't no sunshine when he's gone. And this house just ain't home. Anytime he goes away. And then it comes into that cool section where you're just doing kind of a polyrhythmic vocal line over that straight section. You're still doing the same thing. And I'm keeping it straight right here, but before I was adding a little bit of flourish on the hi-hat. I know. still flowing over what I'm doing here, keeping a straight line. Oh, yeah, 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 oh, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, L, M, N, O, P. So, you just get creative with what you're able to do already with your speaking voice, which is rhythm, it rises, it falls, it moves. Even if you listen to the din of a conversation, you can tell where people are going to start and where they're going to end because you know the language. You don't have to know what they're saying or anything. You just kind of know that they're going to end the phrase, And if you think about what you're doing when you're behind the drums in that way, it can be helpful and very natural. I can read music, but I don't much. I choose kind of not to. Don't read the dots. But I do not discourage anyone from doing that. It's highly, highly valuable, and it's a whole other set of skills. Rudimentary technical stuff comes into big play when, depending on what kind of work you want to do, studio work or getting into a pretty heavy band, that it requires you to learn parts in a certain way, that's more rigid. I don't necessarily play the same thing twice ever. I will develop the framework for a part and then play, but I can't really say that I do the same thing twice necessarily. And I was very pleased to hear that Stuart Copeland, who's the drummer for the Police, doesn't do that either. I read that recently, and I was like, oh, great, he's my favorite, and I'm glad that he does that as well. So coming back to the feel, it's all about what kind of, what are you trying to say? What's your story here? What's your story as a vocalist? What are you trying to say as a drummer? You're trying to fit in with the band and be a part of the landscape. If you're going to sing lead, you're going to be playing lead too. It brings the drums to the forefront once you do that, and you are running the show, and you're either, that kind of person or you're not, and that's okay. It's great fun to sing backup vocals, and like I said, it's a really, really hireable trait if you're a drummer. It's also a really good idea to learn other instruments or just play other instruments just to get a sense of what the other folks in the band are dealing with and what they're doing. You can connect with them better. And that's key too, is being able to connect with the players. Tonight I expected to have a bass player friend here with me who I've played with often over the years, and we have a very simpatico relationship. And I was going to talk about that relationship a bit. But for drummers, playing with a bass player is about the kick and locking up on that with somebody, and trying to get into those spaces together and just feeling it, there's no discussion, and sometimes you just get to the point where you can read somebody's mind, and you both know the framework of the song, but then you can start to move together freely. And it's really all about here. With guitar players, they're watching your right hand, or your left hand if you play an open-handed. That's what they watch for, okay? So the guitar player is watching your right hand, and the bass player is going along with your right foot, all right? So that's just something to keep in mind if you're ever in a band situation, that that's what to work on or what to understand, they're looking for support, okay? And keeping time is everything. I mean, there's nothing against rushing or dragging because that's a human thing, and as long as the whole band's going along with it and you're in the flow, and that's okay. That's all part of it. But it's also important to be able to hold down a pretty steady rhythm, and I really, really recommend working with with records too, but with a metronome. Super helpful, and record yourself and listen back, and that will really give you indicators for where your weak spots are, for where your strengths are, what you like, what you don't like. And so those are sort of like band conversations. Let me think. I wanted to talk about singing a little bit more polyrhythmically over a straight sound, Well, I guess, no, I was just holding a long note. Okay, so I'll go to doing something a little more complicated. There's a song that I always would sing. One of my favorite artists is Joan Armatrading. Do you know who she is or was? No, check her out. Incredible lady. She's still around. She still does some shows, I think. I did get to see her once. But she writes these really wild songs that just have the best, time signatures. And so I worked on this one. There's a song called Show Some Emotion. And I hadn't planned on doing this tonight, but it just popped into my head. And because I don't have Sam here playing bass, I'm just going to do some stuff. So, and sometimes you hear something and you go, oh man, if I could play that, that'd be boss. That'd be so great. I'd be the best drummer, And feel really good about yourself. So this tune, I'll just play it where it goes like this. My right hand is doing this rhythm. Show some emotion. You see, I made this a little simpler here. I stopped doing that when I sang because it's just easier, And I used to be able to do both at the same time, but it's been a long time since I played this song, and it takes a little work. Show us some emotion. Something in your eyes. Let me get the lyrics here. Light up when you're feeling happy. But when it's bad, you let something go down, and then it does this cool thing. It's all these polyrhythmic hits, and I love that one. But if you really want to challenge yourself, take something on like that. It doesn't matter how long it takes. Just spend your time doing that. Sit down, have fun, get frustrated, let it happen. That's part of the fun. That's part of the growth. I'm skipping around a little bit here. So how do you start drumming and singing at the same time? We were sort of talking about that already. Just what I already said. I guess you just sit down and you do it. Listen to records, put on your favorite records, and play to them. And it doesn't matter if you can just get that simple beat going. It doesn't matter what you're listening to. Just keep that going, no matter what's going on, and don't let it throw you off. As long as you know that you pick a 4/4 song, don't worry that there's going to be some complicated drum fill coming up. Don't worry about that part, just keep it straight. And that's the best thing you can do as a drummer, is keep a straight rhythm. Hold it down. Make it feel good, because that's what people respond to, and that's what they want to hear. Okay? So I talked about, everything being connected to the breath, being relaxed. As a singer, I consider myself more of a vocal guide than a teacher, because when I work with folks, I work very organically and individually, depending on their instrument and what they're dealing with. Not to try to impose something. But I also use, I don't reinvent the wheel either. There's 4 sounds that I have sort of chosen, out of the plethora of things to choose from in vocalizing or singing, that are universal and that happen within every kind of contemporary music, except possibly for opera, and they are your head voice, which is really here in your head, here, that sound, right? Your breathy voice, your full voice, which is basically what I'm doing now, your conversational voice, and then your chest voice, down here. Lots of support, okay? So you take a deep breath, you fill up with air, you're ready to go. Lock and load, okay? And it's really important as a seated drummer to keep that support and that air. And posture is one thing to talk about to I won't say that I really think about it. I probably should think about it more than I do. But, I have to sit up straight. I mean, everything's moving, and when you do that, it moves your body. So you have to make sure that you've got, enough gas in the tank. And when I'm singing, I always make sure I have at least a quarter in there. I never completely run out, So those are some textures, that you want to have in your arsenal to deal with, when you're singing. Like when I did "Ain't No Sunshine," I'll give you some examples so that you know like what I'm using, where I'm going in my voice to make these sounds. And I'm singing, "Ain't no sunshine when he's gone." So right there, I started out with something called a vocal artifact. Okay, a little bit of a growl. I know, and it just gives it some, some coolness, a little bit of grit, right? I know, and that sound next is really a mix of full voice and head voice. Okay, being able to blend those sounds is the thing, being able to mush them together to create something unique, and that's what gives you your sound too, the way that you do that, the way that you connect those sounds together. So, ain't no sunshine. Okay, head, a little bit of vocal artifact, and full voice. When he's gone, at the end, a little bit of air, so it becomes interesting. I mean, I could go, ain't no sunshine when he's gone, and then it turns into, ain't no sunshine when he's gone. And it's a little bit staccato, short, and I'm also elongating some things here and there, that I think to do kind of on the fly, or what I really feel like. And I'm telling a story, so I have to feel it, and I'm singing those words, I'm feeling those words, I'm letting my body absorb it physically, okay? And so those are the sounds that I'm using there. And then, yeah, you better leave the young thing alone, 'cause there ain't no sunshine when he's gone. Right? So I went down into my chest voice there, a little bit of grit in my throat, which can be dangerous. That's something that you should work on. You want to blow yourself out. It's really easy to blow yourself out singing as a drummer too, because it's a very loud environment back here. You don't always have good monitors, so you got to take care. You got to be careful, all right. And it's imperative to work on those things because you don't want to hurt yourself. Okay. So it's just a matter of making brush strokes with your voice, creating a beautiful story, and using those textures and sounds to do it. So that's something that I do offer too, if you're interested in that. And again, try to really just keep it in the, just the real natural, organic way that you do things, the way that your voice actually sounds. And I can tell a lot about people as singers just by the way that they talk, whether they're monotone, what kind of listeners they are, by the way that they talk and emote or don't emote, or and their timbre, if they're very sing-songy, then they're used to using a lot of range. Other people are much more, they stay within a certain band. And that doesn't mean they don't have more, but they're just not necessarily exploratory that way, Some of us nutty singers walk around doing weird things and making strange sounds and doing imitations. And so then we have the drums, and all of these have different voices as well. And they create, the sounds that you want to hear in certain places. And that's a whole category of, just beautiful sounds that you have to pull from, Everything's different. The edge of the drum, the middle of the drum, snare, cool hi-hat. You pick out the cymbals that you like the sounds of. They sort of like have different, they take up different spaces in the landscape. And then, fun on the floor here. But all of these things work together to make the music. And so it's a lot to think about, but more you just want to be able to move freely. Like I said, the feel, always back to the feel, and breathing and supporting yourself to create these feelings and images and movement within people. There's when you're working with the metronome, there's a lot of different speeds you can work at, but 120 BPM, beats per minute, is the rhythm that gets people going like this, and they don't even know they're doing it. But if you watch a band come in and they're playing it at 120, you just watch everybody, they just go like that. And it's really interesting. There's a lot of connection there. And again, that's right back to the primal thing, just trying to sing something and play to it. Right back to the beginning, keeping it simple. Keep your air. Let's see what else I had here. Pardon me while I'm just kind of scooting around because like I said, I'm a little bit. My plan changed a bit, so just doing this very organically here. Okay, so a song, I didn't know how many people would be here today, but like a song that you could participate on, something that I think everybody knows, is the Beatles' Come Together. You know that one? Okay, yeah, everybody knows that one. I haven't met anybody who doesn't yet, even little kids. So that's a good example of something starting out with a fill, and then it gets real simple, and the vocals come in. Even though the drummer Ringo is not singing the part, although I'm not even sure if Ringo played that. It might have been like John Lennon in the studio. He did that a lot. He'd just come up with something and play it, and it's him, and you don't know it. So I'm just going to play this, and it's not going to necessarily be exactly how it is on the record, but basically like this. So that's something you can tap out, And if you want to join me in it, it'd be great. Unless you're not comfortable, but that's fine. It's a small crowd. So keep it together. You can clap. So we go together. And that's a fun one, to try at home too, because, even without the fill, you can just do that simple, rock beat, the OG. There it is, right? That's the seed of all rock songs. And then you can go from there, right? So that's a suggestion. You may come up with your own things that you do, but that's just a simple suggestion. Not like the Bill Withers thing, which I find, for me, is it gets out what I need to get out, feel-wise. So, let me see what else I'm thinking about here. Do you have any questions at the moment? Anybody? No? Okay.
The Bill Withers did
Yeah.
the Ain't No Sunshine?
He did Ain't No Sunshine, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So cool. Singing drummers in general, like Levon Helm of the band. He was so great, got the chance with my band back in the mid-'90s to open up for the band and stand behind stage and watch Lee Van Helm, you know. And he was just so cool because he, even though he was very simple, you know, he just kind of exploded, you know. What's that song? I was thinking of it. Pardon me while again, thinking on the fly here, which is fun. I did write one note. It was, think about. Maybe I'll think of it in a bit. But anyway, he's great. Obviously, do you know who Jeff Porcaro was? He was the drummer for Toto and a million other people. Have you heard of the band Toto? These are bands from the 70s. So this is where I hail from, 60s and 70s, 80s too. Wonderful drummer to listen to. Steve Gadd played with everybody, you know, Steely Dan. And then there's crazy Bernard Purdie, who is famous for the Purdie Shuffle. He's another person I got to meet and actually perform with as a vocalist, because he pushed me off the drums and made me go up front, which you do when he comes up behind you and asks you to. So, but he had this really cool shuffle that everybody wanted to learn, and a lot of people hired him just for that. And he had a lot of ego, and he called himself, he called himself the hit maker, and he'd bring signs into recording sessions and say, "You done hired the hit maker now," you know. So, and he played on a lot of Steely Dan stuff, everything you can imagine. He backed up Aretha Franklin. One of the songs that he recorded was Babylon Sisters from Steely Dan. And that is a shuffle is really hard to sing over. I find it very hard to sing over. I mean, you can simplify it, but the way that Bernard played it was pretty complicated for vocalizing on top of. But that's okay, because you just, simplify. And as long as you get the general gist and the feel, then it's okay. You can change things up. It's not always so necessary to play things exactly as they are, unless you're, with some just hardcore cover band, and you gotta learn those parts because people know it so well. They'll go, "Oh, that's not how it goes," But mostly when you're in front of an audience, people don't know, and they're just enjoying the moment, just as you are, and that's your job, is to have people enjoy the moment, and be in there with them, and emoting something. Not just sitting there counting or being in a situation, but you're engaging with people, and that's the gift, and that's the space that you occupy, and that's what you get to do, even if it's like, it doesn't matter where you are, be it some place you just drag yourself into, and this place, and people there, but you get to be there, and you get to do it, and enjoy it. That's the way that I think about it. Certainly been on the other side and been whiny too, but when you think about it, it's an opportunity, like tonight. So getting back to Bernard Purdie, so he's like one and a one and a one and a one and a one. It's a triplet, okay? One and a one and a one. See, I'm messing it up right. Something like that, but you're gonna make it feel good. I wasn't really making it so feel good right there, but that's the thing. A lot of ghost notes. Like that. When you're with a band, you can lock in with that, and that's a hard thing to keep going if you overthink it. But you got to be light and loose. Which brings me to the next thing I want to talk about, is holding your sticks. It's really a nuanced thing. It's about just being fluid and following through. You can use your wrists. You never want to be tight. You never want to do this. I mostly use match grip, which is like this. This is traditional grip. Okay, like there's a lot of jazz players play like that. Most of them do. And then you just bounce around. Okay. Yeah, and so that's a way of holding the stick. And for me, I've really gotten into, in like the last 10 years, using my fingers. You know, you hold your stick pretty tightly between your index finger and your thumb, your fulcrum there, and then you know you can balance it, move it like that very fluidly. See that movement? And then you put your other fingers behind it, and you can get movement like that. And my wrist is not moving when I do that. The work is being done by my fingers. So mostly when I play. What's that?
I started doing that too, but
Yeah.
it kind of came naturally.
Yeah, great. Yeah. Well, that's a great way to play. I found it very helpful. I kind of go in and out of things depending on how hard I'm playing or you know what I think I need to do. But that's helped greatly. And a good exercise for that. What I do a lot, probably John sees me walking around I was like this a lot. You know, I hold it and I play like on the back of my arms like this. It gets you moving, you know, faster and faster and faster and faster. And but it's all about, you know, that control. You don't want to be losing your sticks, even though I still do, and you will once in a while. Things happen, you know, or I hit my mic stand. I'm dealing with this too, you know. When you're a singer, you've got this in front of you, and that's a whole other element. You know, you got to figure out where you want it, where you're most comfortable. I find it off to the right and up a little bit high. I feel like my motion is free down here. You know, once in a while, when I did that earlier, I get my stick caught, you know, up here. Whoops, you know. But you just go. You go with the you go with the flow. On with the show, and don't get hung up on those things. Let yourself make mistakes and learn from them, and let new ones happen all the time. So yeah, holding your sticks is really important. You know, in a certain way, and this gives me a lot more freedom. Using my fingers and a lot more control, but it takes a while. You know, there's lots of great exercises on YouTube. There's a great YouTube channel called Drumeo, which I call from all the time. I watch a lot of stuff on there. They've got great downloads and really incredible players and teachers there that you can get free lessons from. You know, you can also subscribe, but you can find really everything. They've just broadened into such great offerings since their beginnings. So sticks, right? So I'm gonna do. Hopefully, I can do this. I was trying to find some backing tracks to play, you know, with myself this evening, but I thought I'd have the bass player here, but I couldn't really find anything. So I'm gonna try to do "Kiss" by Prince, and I'm gonna do something called the groove swap on that. Okay. There it is. Wow, one hit, it came right up. Look at that. Slick. Okay. So, before I start singing, I'm going to do a groove swap. Okay, so I'm going to start with that OG, old school groove. You can pretend that there's music. Okay, so it's OG, right? And then I'm going to change it to a doo-wop groove. Changes the feel, right? It's still the same thing. If you can still hear the song going over it. Da, 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 da. Okay, so there's that one. The next one that I was going to do was, I was just going to flow into this, but I forget the next one. We're just going to halftime. I'll go from the doo-wop into halftime. You don't have to be rich to be my girl. You don't have to be cool to rule my world. Okay? And then if you do a reggae feel. You don't have to be rich to be my song like that and change the groove up very simply, make it into something different, all right? So I thought that would be something interesting to discuss, something to try at home, with something. I mean, Kiss is a cool tune. It's just really groovy and it's such a pocket. It's such a deep feel, and you can move all over that. And I encourage you to do that. Let me get back to my little document here, which I'm reading from. Yeah. So. Okay, so let me talk about ballads for a minute, which are great because if you're really into singing, you don't often have to be doing a lot on the drums when you sing, when you're, playing a ballad. And for some years now, I've done a cover of Wild Horses. And let's see if I can get my lyrics up because it's been a while. Bear with me. So I always loved this song. There was a really cool version done by a band called The Sundays back in the 90s, my lost decade of the 90s, Jason. And there were a lot of cool things happening in the 90s. One was that they would feature kind of burgeoning bands, up-and-coming bands on television shows. And one of those television shows was Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which I happened to love, and I would binge that show. And so this band, The Sundays, was on the program. There was a club that the kids would frequent called the Bronze, and they'd go down there and there'd be some band on the stage, and it would be like this featured band, and that was how they got their music out through these programs, which I thought was great. What a brilliant thing, and super cool. And so the Sundays did this version of Wild Horses, which I loved. And without the jangly guitar, maybe you can imagine it. It's just a little different than the Stones version. But I loved this song, and I wanted to do it, and I'm going to do it for you right now, and I'm going to take some water first, because I'm talking. And then after this, maybe if you guys you can make a suggestion, to me, or if there's anything that you want to try, you're welcome to come up here. I can actually, help you get into something if you dare. So again, this is just a straight rock rhythm, okay? Charlie Watts, simple rock guy, laid it down for the Stones for 50 years or however long he played with them. And Charlie was not the most flashy drummer, but he just held down this feel. He did what the band needed, and he was so brilliant at it. There's just brilliance in that simplicity. And making it feel good. Again, I keep coming back to that, but that's the job. So, and then, if you're going to sing, also making that feel good and emoting something. And Wild Horses is one of those songs that just, for some reason, it just gets under my skin and speaks to me. So I'm gonna sing it for you. Childhood living is easy to do. The things you wanted, I bought them for you. Graceless lady, you know who I am, and you know I won't let you slide through my hands. And wild sweeping, and I keep deciding to show me the same. No sweeping exits or off stage lines could make me feel better. Ooh, treat you unkind. And wild horses couldn't drag me away. I know wild horses will ride them someday. And there you go. Yeah. So let's see. It's 7:56. I've killed an hour doing this. I can't even believe it. So, is there anything you'd like to ask, or that you've thought about, or that you want to learn for yourselves, or is there anything that I can show you? For
I
Hannah?
actually do have a question.
Yeah.
So there's like this like it's like the sticks are like bouncing off of the drum.
Mhm.
It's like super, super fast.
Rebound. Yeah.
Yeah, I could never figure out how to do that.
Well, that's about letting the stick do the work. Okay. So like I've got a balance point here. In my fingers. I'm letting the stick fall. And when you let a stick fall, it bounces. Okay. So it's going to bounce on its own anyway. But if you kind of catch it, coming back up, that's how that happens. And that, it's, there's so much about touch. It's not just, hitting the drums. There's a lot of touch and there's a lot of dynamic. You make it go with your voice and with the song, with the dynamics of the song. But yeah, it's all about stick technique, or just getting, comfortable with holding the sticks and gaining control, right? And that's just practice. You get yourself a practice pad, practice balancing the sticks between your fingers like that, and then let it bounce, and then try to control that rebound, as it comes back up, just grab it. Well, I'm doing it with my fingers, but there's a lot you can do to help get that going on. Yeah. That answer your question? A little bit? At least get you started on something. Yeah. Anything else? Yes. Yeah. Have any of you guys thought about drumming and singing at the same time? Or you're just more into drumming, or you're just here?
I kind of I'm into like a lot of that, like singing and play guitar.
Okay, sing and play guitar. Yeah, that's a start. Like that rhythm that you hold down here. That's you're doing it. So think about that. Make a transfer. And maybe that'll help out there. Yeah. So anyway, it's been an hour. It's been so great being here. Total pleasure. And I'm so glad that you guys are here. Participate. And thank you to Loading Duck. Thank you to Schilling for the amazing pizza. Thank you, Noah. Thank you over there behind the bar, which is not just a bar. We have wonderful snacks and water and bubbly beverages. So thanks a lot. Thanks for coming out.